Well, hello, friends. Welcome back. Ross Braun here, your host of the Positivity Wins podcast. And I want to thank you personally for joining in today. We are on episode 8. And some of you have reached out and said, when am I going to get another episode of Positivity Wins? And well, the answer to that is now. So I intentionally took almost the whole month of December off really from social media, from putting out a lot of content. I do have a few blogs out there that we'll talk about later, but I just took the time to be engaged and present with my family, with friends, with extended family. We got to take a bucket list trip to New York City at Christmas time, and it was just so special. So, thank you for waiting for the next episode of Positivity Wins. I'm really excited to jump back in. I am also super excited to see what 2026 holds for Positivity Wins and this community that we're building. This was an idea that started last year, really in the fall. That shift for me from only putting out educational leadership content and only connecting with educators to everyone, teams, coaches, family members, leaders in all industries. If you are someone that says, I want to get better, I want to be a better teammate, family member, leader, you name it, Positivity Wins is for you. And that's what I'm doing is to put more positivity out into the world, but also to help you get better in your crafts and in your relationships and in your connections. And so today's episode 8, is one that is needed, if you ask me. But this is a problem that I see a lot when I work with schools, teams, organizations, talk to principals. They struggle with disagreeing. So the title of this episode is Let's Disagree Without Being Disagreeable. And so right now, if you are saying, yes, that is me, that is where I work, that's where I lead, that's my family right now, then this episode is for you. But as always, if this is your first time joining, I always say, if you are not a podcast person, if you just jumped on to kind of see what this is all about, then you have another option. Intentionally, I have a blog on my website, themrbraun.com. And each topic that we talk about here on the podcast, I release the blog about a week prior to. So if you say I'm not a podcast person, then jump over there and read the blog. You can connect with me on the website. You can connect with me on social media. We can chat back and forth about, how this connected with you or how I can support you beyond the blog or beyond the podcast episode. And so if you are a podcast person, then let's go. Let's hang on and let's dive into today's episode. But before we do that, I always just start out with what's on my mind. And when what's on my mind here when it comes to this topic is it's really simple. If you want a strong school, organization, team, culture, family, you name it, you have to learn how to disagree well. Every successful company, team, they don't always get along, believe it or not. But they have figured out how when they disagree, they get through it. They work together. One thing, if you are in tune to anything college football right now, my team, my diehard basketball team for years and years and years, and all of a sudden we get to root for their football team as well. The Indiana Hoosiers are having just a storybook year. Like Coach Signetti said, it's going to be a movie one of these days for sure. But one thing that their Heisman Trophy award-winning quarterback Fernando Mendoza always says after games, he uses this word synergy. Last week, Reese Davis asked him, what is synergy? And he had a great definition. But I think this is synergy. Synergy is when we are vibing, we are locked in, we are in tune with one another. We can agree to disagree, but when we disagree, we figure out how we move forward beyond it. So that's what today's episode is all about. If this is your first time joining in, you know that I like to have a playbook. I'm a sports guy. I've coached a lot of different sports at a lot of different levels. And whether it was a practice or a game, we always had a game plan. And so I like to go through the positivity playbook or game plan in each episode. And so it starts out with a positive story. And typically, this is a story that I've seen on social media, I've seen in the news that just either gives me cold chills or makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And I want to share it with you. But today's a little bit different, and it's about positive impact. And it's a chance for me to brag on our team for a minute. So, if you know anything about my story, you know that 3.5 years ago, I made the most difficult decision ever to be made in my life. And that was to step out of my role as an elementary principal. And it was such a tough decision for me because I loved my job. I love the kids. I love the staff that I served, the community that I served. But there was something in me that was longing for more. And it came down to impact. And I wanted to make a positive impact on more, more students, more staff members. And truthfully, I have this giant, lofty goal to make a positive impact on as many schools across the country. Just so you know, there's 96,000 elementaries in the United States, but as many of those 96,000 elementaries as I possibly can. And that's why I stepped in this role to help lead school life. And so in 2025, I got to brag on our team, sent out 13,932 orders from our Houston, Texas manufacturing facility. So shout out to Rosa, who leads the team down there, and everyone who works in Houston. They are amazing. But almost 14,000 orders were sent out to schools, organizations, very you name it, all across the country. And if you follow anything school life, anything that I share out about school life, you know that we truly pride ourselves in being a partner in positivity with every single one of those orders and who's on the other side of them. And so, one of the main parts of my job is growing our business and really connecting with each and every single customer. And so, one goal that I'm really excited about is in 2025, we had 5,153 new partners in positivity. And I would say a vast majority of those heard from me personally, whether it was a phone call or an email, just to thank you and welcome to the School Life family. And so, shout out to everyone at School Life. Shout out to Kim Mady, our CEO and owner, who hired me 3.5 years ago, a principal that stepped into the business world. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity. But man, this positive impact is what it's all about for me, school life. So that's our positive story. But now let's get into today's topic, and that is disagreeing well. That's the reality. All of us are not going to always get along. I mean, it's impossible, right? We all have different viewpoints. We all have different ways that we see things. And we don't want to always get along. And we're going to talk about what that means, but we want some disagreement in our organizations, on our teams, and in our schools. And we know that, our country right now is really not getting along well. And so, what can we do in our part of the world, in our little nook and cranny of our community, to start showing how to agree better, disagreeing well? And so we're going to look at four different subtopics. It's disagreement isn't the problem, challenging without crushing, every conversation is a choice, and culture isn't said, it's shown. So our first subtopic, disagreement isn't the problem. I've said this already, but I'm going to say it again. Conflict is not the enemy. I've met a lot of leaders. I've worked with leaders, all across the country, personally, locally, and some of them really dislike conflict, like so bad that it's tearing their organizations down. And I tell them it is okay to have some conflict as long as disrespect is known as the enemy. We can disagree, but we're going to do it respectfully. And that's what today's episode is all about, looking at ways that we disagree out of respect for one another, your viewpoints, your stance, and then we're going to respectfully move forward through this conflict and make sure that not only you and I are better, but our organization, our team, our school are better when we get behind it. And so healthy teams can disagree without tearing each other down. Like I said, I love sports. You'll see in games, especially the higher level you get, you will see teams, teammates, coaches, and players disagreeing like heavily. I mean, almost to the point where like, whoa, are they about to go to blows? And some people will say, well, that's not disagreeing well. But I challenge you to watch the disagreement play out. For one, they're giving each other eye contact. They're listening to one another. And I think that's a big one right now is so many of us only see our point of view. We put our blinders on. And when we start getting in a disagreement, we don't even listen to the other side. You know what I'm talking about? You think of somebody right now who is like that? Maybe it's you. And you're like, yeah, I do need to be a better listener. But in those conflicts, those heated conflicts on the sidelines, you will see athletes get into it, yell at each other, face to face as they're listening in. And then 2 seconds later, they're handshaking, they're dabbing up, and they're saying, yeah, you were right. Or, yeah, that's what we need to do. They've listened to each other, they've compromised, and they're going forward with a game plan to finish out the game, to win the game, to go on to the championship, whatever it may be. And so, disagreement, it's not a threat, it's an opportunity for us to get better. That's your subtopic number one. Subtopic number two is the challenge without crushing. So, to go along with that story, is healthy teams encourage challenge. They want pushback. I didn't want to be a principal. I don't want to be a leader here at school life and never have anyone challenge me or ask questions or share their side of the story or their viewpoint, share new ideas. And so I want people surrounding me. You should want people, if you're a leader, surrounding you that are going to ask hard questions, share new ideas, and point out blind spots. Because we are all guilty of this is we see something from our point of view, our vantage point. And rarely do we take the time or even think about stepping out and seeing it from others. But you know who else who's all around us? People on our team. And they see it from their viewpoint and their standard and all of those things. And so listen to them. And hopefully you are building a culture where they feel confident enough, they feel respected enough that they can come to you when your door's open. They can stop you in the hallway and say, hey, I know you made that decision last week, or no, you said that in the meeting, but I don't know if it's the best approach to this. Can we talk sometime? Yeah. Step in here. Let's talk right now. Whatever it may be, when you schedule it out and have that conversation because I always say this, I want to surround myself with people that are smarter than I am. I want to surround myself with people that have bigger goals than I do because it inspires me and it provides me with these soundboards that are full of knowledge and that are going to take me to the next level. But most importantly, they're going to take our team, our school, our organization to new heights and reach new goals. If we just simply have people that are clocking in and clocking out and staying in, doing their thing and never having conversations, then are we truly going to grow and succeed where we potentially can? And so what does it mean to challenge without crushing? I want to have meaningful conversations, not personal attacks. So let's challenge the idea, not the person. So in every conversation, in every conflict, you will have the choice to either add to the noise or add to the growth. What's the difference here? Well, noise drains the energy, drains the energy in the room. It drains the energy beyond the room and the entire organization, brings the culture down. Noise divides the team. How are we supposed to get better with conflict if we are constantly always divided? And you know the people in your organization that's causing the noise, that's dividing the team. Noise stops momentum. We can have the right systems in place, the right people hired, but if we are constantly adding noise to the conflicts, to the conversations, we are not going to see the growth, the success that we deserve. On the flip side, growth, if you're adding growth to the conflict, to the conversations, growth unites people, it unites everybody on your team, even those outside of the organization that want to support you. Growth strengthens both your team, your organization, but it also strengthens the individuals within it. And growth gets results. Teams, schools, organizations with a growth mindset are 10 times more likely to have success than schools, organizations, and teams that's filled with noise. Say it again. Growth has 10 times more likelihood of having success than noise. Every time, regardless of your demographics, geographics, if you are adding growth to the conversations, you are adding growth to your organization, then you are going to see success. And then our last subtopic is culture isn't said, it's shown. And that's where all of this comes together. We are pushing through conflict, we are building culture. Hopefully, you have a strong culture in place already. But if you're listening to this podcast, you've gotten this far, then you probably have some work to do on your culture. It always amazes me when I work with new schools how naive principals can be with their culture. In fact, that's one of the first questions I always ask as we start working together. Well, what's your culture like? And I hear, principals, it's great, it's good, things are good here, right? Okay, let's take a walk. Show me the school. And we get out in the hallways of the school, and I quickly see culture isn't as great as principal thought. Why? Small details. We took a lap around the school, walked through the halls, and no one spoke to him or her. We passed 7 students, and he or she didn't speak to any of them, and the students didn't speak to them. We've passed adults and students working together that weren't speaking to each other. That's a problem. You have a culture problem. In fact, when I was a principal, we had a rule in our school that a student could not walk down the hallway from point A to point B without passing adult and that adult having a connection with them. It could be as simple as a high five, a fist bump, love your shoes, how's your day going? 2 seconds. That's all it took. But when a student walked from point A to point B, they needed to make sure that they were some type of contact with every single adult that they passed. That is culture, right? And so culture, it's not written on a wall. Those principles that say our culture is great, they're like, yeah, check out the bulletin board. They're right there in the foyer. Check it out. Look in the gym. We've got that really cool banner up there that says, culture is here. That's great. But what culture really is, it's whispered in the hall, in the staff lounge. That is where you see culture. And so when a team learns to disagree respectively, I said that at the very beginning a couple of times, they communicate clearly. If you are a principal, you think you got your communication figured out, say 10 exit, right? At least 5 exit, because someone out there thinks that you are not a great communicator. You could always improve your communication. And they put the mission of this school or this organization, this team over their personal egos, those whispers become really powerful. They reinforce the culture that you are trying to build instead of working against it. All of a sudden, the whispers in the hallway are those connections, the high fives, the fist pumps. I loved what you were doing from teacher to teacher. I want to have those types of conversations. My goodness, I did not know that you were teaching that this week. Can I bring my students in and we can collaborate on something? That is an example of culture. Your teams. Hey, what you doing after practice tonight? You want to go grab dinner together? I love when I walk into a local eating establishment and I see an entire high school team all sitting together. No coach. This is not some thing that I had to be at. Coach said I had to be there at 6. This is something together and just teenagers, young adults that we said we want to spend time together outside of practice, outside of a required time that we had to have as a team. That is culture. And so, the end of the day, we wrap this up about talking about conflict and disagreement. If you want a stronger culture, don't aim for a team that never disagrees. Instead, aim for a team that knows how to disagree well. And so I keep this short, intentionally under 25, 30 minutes. I could dive into this topic and give you so many more strategies. If you are saying, yes, I want more, I want you to personally reach out on social media at the Mr. Braun, send me a message, and let's talk. All right. We'll set up a time to Zoom or we can dive in and specifically talk about what you're going through as a leader on your team or your organization at your school, because I want to help you. I have been there. I've sat in your seat and I was not disagreeing. And I want to make sure that you don't go through what I went through in my early years as a principal, too. And so, as we wrap up this episode, we got two more things in our playbook. And that first one is the power move. So this is a specific strategy that I want to give you in terms of conflict and disagreement. And this strategy is disagreeing with care. Right? Think about disagreeing with care. I'm going to put it, in my palms, and I want to make sure that we disagree well, carefully, especially for those on your team, your organization that already have a problem with disagreeing. Here's how this works. One, you're going to name the shared goal first. So if I walk up to you and I say, what you said last week about X, Y, and Z. Thanks for sharing that. I love that you put it out in your bulletin, but also you came and you talked to us together as a staff as well. And I know that our goal here is this. I really want to make sure that we can reach that goal too, maybe even a little bit higher than what you got. Okay, here we go. We've got a shared goal. We know what we both want. And then two, I already said this once, but where you're going to challenge the idea, not the person. Think I might have a better idea on how we can get there. Or did you know that so and so really is like an expert in this? This is their jam. Let's bring them in too. I think they could really put some value into this. They've got some good ideas on here. I didn't say, "Hey, your idea stinks." Like, what were you thinking making that decision? We've got to start from scratch. I'm challenging the idea here. That's the second part. And then number 3, we have this conversation. We maybe hopefully are having, some type of formal or informal meeting though that we have established, bringing that other person in, so on and so forth. And we end with commitment, not consensus. So we end with a commitment to reach those goals. Hey, you know what? You're right. I don't know why did I think of that, but thank you for bringing that to my attention. Let's meet tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Bring them in and let's hammer this out because I think what you're talking about is great. And I think we do this, we're really going to reach those goals, if not, like you said, higher. See how I just modeled that? That is disagreeing. Well, I didn't say, no, you're crazy. I made my decision. Get out of here. That's that. I listen to them. I listen to those that I'm serving, that I'm leading. And then our last one is our final buzzer. And that is for you to build a team where honesty and kindness can coexist. Think about that for a second. Where honesty and kindness can coexist. I want our team and our organization to be honest with one another. I'm going to be hot, honest, open, and transparent with you as I'm leading. But I also want us to be kind in our conversations, be kind in our decisions, because we're all not going to get along all the time. We're all not going to agree all the time. We can be kind, respectful, good human beings in that process. And so that's all I've got on disagreeing well. I told you before, reach out if you want to dive deeper into this. I'd love to support you. Uh, Obviously, some people are like, well, what's you going to charge me? I'm not going to charge you anything. I believe in supporting, making a positive impact on others. And if that's a Zoom call, if that's a conversation, a phone call, whatever it may be, I'm all in. Now, if I got to get on an airplane, we may have to talk about some type of fee, but that's a time for another conversation. I just want to support you, support your organization, make a positive impact on as many others as I possibly can. And so, thank you for joining in on episode 8, the Positivity Wins podcast. If this supported you, if you think it can support one of your friends, please like, share, retweet, whatever platform you're on, post it in your stories. I would really appreciate it because in 2026, like I said, I truly feel like it's the year of positivity for you, for me, for our communities, and this is going to be something special. So until next time, remember when positivity wins, we all win. Thank you.